Welcome to follow up on if GG Sport is truly at the beginning of the end. This video is going to jump around a bit on the overall topics that I'm mentioning, but essentially it's kind of touch base with more recent information on videos I did in the past. And to begin with is actually something that began before the beginning of the end of the video. The GG Sport Daily Roulette, if it's rigged. 2017, I made a video showing that, yes, it's probably rigged. 2019, a few weeks ago, I made a video with statistical proof, both from GG Planet and myself, that shows it's rigged. But now, since then, it's been brought to my attention via GG Planet that a few days before I made the video, but on a different thread that I analyzed in the video, so I didn't see it, that someone has actually won a 20 million credit card. That's nice. One person has won a 20 million credit card out of everyone on GG Planet that bothered to document it. I mean, can we assume if one person won it on GG Planet that at some point someone entire other part of GG Sport won it and didn't document it? Yeah, that's fair to say. But let's then say that since the issue was brought up as if the Daily Roulette is rigged, let's say 5 people total have won at 20 million credit card. GG Sport has about 8 million copies sold. The PD themselves hasn't come out to say it, but it's been analyzed via, like I've said in other videos, like it's been analyzed on GG Planet, many other sites now. That's just been found out by the general analytics and the salespeople and all that. It's 8 million copies sold. If 5 people's total won a 20 million credit card, that's still quite rigged compared to any other car. There's 4 20 million credit cards. Let's even go and give a much bigger number than it ever could be. Let's say 5, and let's make the math easy. Let's say 8,000 people have won a 20 million credit card. Out of the 8 million copies sold of GG Sport, I guarantee it's not 8,000 people. It might not even be 8, but let's just say 8,000 to give us high of a number as it ever possibly could be, to give as much evidence as possible that GG Sport ain't rigged. Let's give the highest benefit of the doubt ever possible. I'll put it in the description that shows someone winning the 20 million credit cards. You can take that as you may and analyze it how you may, but this is how I'll analyze it the best way possible to show that GG Sport ain't rigged, but then still ultimately proving that it's rigged. 8,000 people has won the 20 million credit card. Again, it ain't that much, but we're using it. 8 million total copies sold of the game. There's more players than that, but let's just say it's 8 million players as well to give the absolute benefit of the doubt. 8,000 to 8 million is 1/1000th of the total. There's about 333 cars in the game. Let's say that is 1/3 of 1,000. Or 333, 334, whatever. Let's just say 1/3 of 1,000 cars in the game. There's only 1/1000th of the people that have won that car. Any of the 20 million credit cards. And there's 333 cars in the game, or thereabouts. So that automatically doesn't make sense because there's 1 in 100, or there's 1 in 333 chance to win the car, but then yet on the best of circumstances, 1/1000th have won it. But that's not correct because there's 4 20 million credit cards. So realistically, the chances of winning one of those is 4 in 333. So that's better odds than even 1 in 100. You know, 1 in only 1,000 people won it. So that's already 10 times worse odds than to get any other individual car. So on the absolute best circumstances possible, it's 10 times worse odds to win a 20 million credit car than any other individual car. I've sold in my videos, even in 2019, I've won like 3 Chevy Corvette Group 4 cars. I have won 3 of a single car. There's been one person documented that I've seen that has won one 20 million credit card ever. One. So, and I'd say more than anything, that's a legality thing. PD probably has to give at least someone a 20 million credit card from the spin. Or else maybe they could sue about it, but then again, that goes back to the old videos. This is more just giving new information about the old videos. I'm not going to go over the old videos themselves all that much, because y'all can just watch them if you want to catch up there. This is just showing the new information, a la someone has won a 20 million credit card. Essentially, the chances of winning a 20 million credit card are about the same odds as winning the FI championships. There's been one person documented to win the 20 million credit card. There's been 3 FI champions. Or 2 winners. Because Igor Frog has won it twice now, and then Nicholas Rubelar won 1. Essentially, if you're looking at that, there's better odds to win the FI championship than there is to win a car in the game. Doesn't that sound a bit iffy, folks? Well, this ain't the half of it. This is not the main reason I'm making this video. I just wanted to bring that up because I said in the previous video, if enough information came about the daily roulette thing and it's pertinent information, such as someone winning a 20 million credit card, or PD changes the odds of it or whatever, I'd make another video on it. So there you have it. I just fulfilled my promise of that. But this is the main juicy bit of this video, meaning the FI championships, like I mentioned a bit before. Igor Fraga, he won the most recent Nations Cup. The manufacturer was won by a different manufacturer than it won before. Before, the winners were Toyota, Lexus, Aston Martin. As said in the previous video, Toyota and Lexus are direct sponsors of the FI Championship. Toyota is the main company, and then Lexus is just an affiliate of Toyota. And then also Red Bull is a main sponsor of the championships. Aston Martin is affiliation with Red Bull because they've done like cars with each other. I don't know exactly what the car is, but I mean, y'all can do research on that on your own. I just know that Aston Martin and Red Bull had like a car that dealt with both of them. Like, sort of an example of that is Ford and Monster Energy with the Gymkhana thing. So sort of the same thing, kind of, sort of, ish. So therefore, the 3 champions before were officially associated with PD. Now we have a manufacturer that wasn't. Yay, that's nice, ain't it? That means that it's not rigged. Maybe. Honestly, I don't know about this topic anymore. Again, the whole point of the last video is no one really knows the ins and outs unless you're part of the in crowd to know the ins and outs. I just gave the facts, and then now it's a fact as well that a different manufacturer won. So here's the situations in which that could mean. Again, I don't know which it is, but this is what it could mean. 1, it was never rigged to begin with, and it's definitely not now. It just happened that Toyota, Lexus, and Aston Martin won the first 3. That was a coincidence. 2, on the other end of the spectrum, it's still rigged. It's just they let a different manufacturer win, so people don't look too much into it. Or 3, it's in the middle. It was rigged before to give the manufacturers directly associated with the FI Cup their championships. They've won now, so it's fulfilled their contract, essentially. Now it's not rigged, now anyone could win. Before it was rigged, now it's not. Which is really, I legitimately don't know. But those are essentially the 3 situations that it could be. So now, on to the other half of it, the Nations Cup. There is a bit in the Manufacturers Cup that's looking sort of iffy, as apparently it's said in the future that Igor Fraga, the Nations Cup champion, won 2 of 3, and Nicholas Rubelar won the other one, is going to race with Toyota in the future. It's not the future yet, so it's not officially happening yet, but it's been said that it will happen. I'll touch base on that in the future if that does happen, but for now I'll just say the champion is racing with Toyota, who's a main sponsor of the FI Championships. But that hasn't officially happened yet. You're not officially racing with them yet because it hasn't happened yet. So we'll see about that, folks. I mean, Igor Fraga also won the McLaren Championship thing as well. So apparently he's racing with McLaren now. And then he was racing before any of that started too in Formula cars. So I don't know fully about that. It's not the future yet, so I don't really think anyone knows for sure about that. But this is a straight up fact, folks. Igor Fraga, the driver, has already mentioned. Yeah, I'm not gonna show that clip because I don't know about the legalities of it, but y'all probably already know what I'm talking about. It's where Igor Fraga let off the throttle at a full throttle point directly in front of Mikhail Zal to essentially win this Nations Cup, the one that happened a few days ago in New York. There's two sides of that story, one of which is Zal was saving fuel, so he was on the soft tires when Fraga was on the mediums. So theoretically, Zal could have went by on pure speed. He had the better tires, so he could have come by. But he didn't get as much fuel as Fraga, so he had to conserve fuel. So he just ran slightly behind him for a while, conserve his fuel and his tires, so that way he had the better tires at the end and enough fuel where he could make a move at the end. But for that point, he wanted to stay in Fraga's draft to ultimately save fuel. So he never made a move to go by. And ultimately, after the incident with Fraga, he backed off a bit just to ensure that he finished in second because Fraga had already won a previous championship. So therefore, the driver second gets to go to the World Finals because Fraga already made it anyway. Essentially, champions provisional, like in how it works in NASCAR. If you've already won a championship, you're good. But we still don't know if that's 100% the case. Zal might not make it. We don't know. I think that's still getting figured out. But what we do know is there's some people who have another side of the story. As Al mentioned in an interview, he just straight up said it, is that it's biased. They're being biased towards Fraga, meaning Fraga out of throttle on Hazal on purpose to essentially win him the race. He gave enough of a gap to where Hazal wasn't going to be able to catch Fraga while also fuel saving. The other side of the story is Hazal didn't need to fuel save. Different people are saying different things on that. I'm not going to give an opinion on which is or isn't because ultimately fuel saving is kind of relative too because no matter how much throttle you are or aren't using, there's also the settings of fuel capacity, meaning you can be full throttle with fuel on 3 and be saving the same amount of fuel as short shifting with the fuel setting on 1. So it really just depends on the driver of how much fuel is or isn't getting saved, and some drivers just have their own personal preferences with that, so I'm not going to make an opinion on the fuel saving part of it. But what some people have made opinions on is essentially Fraga did it on purpose because ultimately at the end of the race, while he did get penalized, he got penalized 5 seconds when Hazal finished 6 seconds behind. On the other side of the spectrum, Hazal backed off to save fuel, so the penalty just ultimately didn't matter. But on this side of the spectrum, if Hazal didn't back off, and he would have made it on fuel, let's just say he did, and let's say he finished 2 seconds behind Fraga, the penalty would have only been 1 second. If he finished 9 seconds behind Fraga, the penalty would have been 8 seconds. The penalty was there on this side of the spectrum to make everyone look good. To make it look like they did penalize Fraga, so they gave him what he deserved, so he's not going to do it again. But they also give Fraga the win because PD is sponsoring Fraga in real life racing. The ins and outs, again, aren't completely known, but it's been said by many people that apparently PD, Sony, PlayStation, however you want to look at it, all of the above, some of the above, whatever is sponsoring his real life racing in the Formula cars. Yeah, that's a bit iffy. That's kind of a red flag if you're on that side of the spectrum. I mean, apparently that's a straight up fact as well. So, what side of the spectrum I'm on? I mean, I'll say this. It's obvious that to some capacity, Zal was saving fuel. How much or how little he needed to save it's hard to say because different drivers have different preferences on how they want to save fuel. But it's obviously what's doing it too. But it's also obvious that Fraga intentionally slowed down in front of Zal. So, which driver's truly to blame? I'm not going to get into that. But I will say this. PD is allowing dirty racing at this point. And if anything, they're really showcasing it. They didn't say anything to Zal for backing off, whether he was or wasn't saving fuel. They didn't say anything for Fraga for letting off the gas, whether it was intentional or not. They gave Fraga a penalty, but they ultimately didn't really talk to him. They didn't do the NASCAR equivalent of taking him to the hauler. They didn't do that. They didn't physically tell him to not do that again. So, I've mentioned NASCAR quite a lot in this video. More as a reference point than anything, but this is just going to be a straight up comparison. The reason that I still believe that GT Sport and maybe even Polyphony Digital as a whole is at the beginning of the end is it's pretty well accepted that NASCAR is at the beginning of the end as well. I was a huge NASCAR fan back in the mid 2000s when it was at its peak, statistically, and to me, how the racing was as well. I was a huge fan of Gran Turismo when it was at the peak in the 2000s, statistically, and how the racing was to me as well. In 2019, I have my fair share of gripes about PD and GT Sport and such. I have my fair share of gripes about NASCAR as well, which I don't really show on this channel because it's not necessarily relevant to what I show on this channel. But, I mean, I definitely do, as a lot of people do with NASCAR, and as a lot of people are starting to have with GT Sport. The sales on GT Sport are still iffy. PD themselves haven't come out and said anything, even though supposedly it's 8 million copies sold, which is quite an amazing number, given that GT6 only sold 6 point something million. So you'd think PD would say if it really did sell 8 million, because that's a good number, but we don't know. What we do know, though, is the NASCAR side of things. NASCAR has been going down in ratings every cotton picking year since the mid-2000s. I think its peak year was like 2006 in overall ratings, and it's gotten worse literally every year since. Is that the same with PD? Essentially, yes. In 2010, circa-ish, NASCAR was still doing quite well. People had a bit of gripes. The new generation of car was kind of iffy. People said it looked boxy and it didn't really look like the old thing. GT5 also came out in 2010. Some people griped that it kind of didn't look like the old Gran Turismo games. They kept a lot of the things that looked ugly about it, and it just overall wasn't the quality of the old ones. But they still both got favorably well treated then. 2010, NASCAR, I think the drivers themselves were making about the most money they ever did. PD themselves at Gran Turismo 5, which sold over 10 million copies. People started to come out of the woodwork and say some stuff was wrong with the company, it was overall fairly well liked. Now let's go to the mid-2010s, let's say 2014. Everyone doesn't like the modern-looking NASCAR car, so they come out with a new generation of them. People don't hate that as much, but at this point, people just don't care anymore. It's been so long since NASCAR has been at its peak that people just aren't coming back. Gran Turismo 2014, right after GT6 comes out. GT6, it kind of looks like an old Gran Turismo game to add a lot of quality tweaks and stuff, but it sort of, a lot of people just call it GT5 Spec 3.0. It's not a truly new thing at this point, so people just don't care, and they don't come back. The NASCAR ratings are kind of sort of starting to look bad then. Gran Turismo ratings are kind of sort of starting to look bad then. GT6, again, only sold 6.7 million copies. NASCAR ratings were starting to get noticeably lower by then. And then now here, 2019. NASCAR, it's almost universally accepted that it's failing. It's on a downward spiral. I mean, Brian France is out. It's like his uncle or whatever that's leading it out. That's not a good sign. PD. Nothing's really changed with leadership. It's still kind of all the same. But at least NASCAR is kind of attempting to change. They're going back to sort of kind of better racing-ish with the new aero package. It's kind of iffy, but at least it seems like they're putting an effort in. They got rid of the guy that was pretty universally not well liked. PD. Well, they took the NASCAR philosophy of folks have at it, but in a real driving simulator, and made it to where they're literally endorsing dirty driving. Straight up example, sorry I'm saying names, is something that is a downright negative that I have a 100% opinion on. Cody Lukoski. He's just straight up, he raced dirty for many championships. This is not the first one he's done it. But in this championship, a recent video on Gran Turismo TV was showcasing him directly racing fast. He's a good driver. He's arguably one of the top 10 in the world in that particular thing, but I don't think even on his best day he would ever be able to win it. And overall, he might be in the top 10 just because he's pretty caught picking dirty. But then yet, they're still showcasing him. If anything, I feel like, and I'm not the only one who feels it, they should just straight up kick him out. But PD's starting to adopt the folks have at it, like NASCAR. The thing with NASCAR is the cars are safe enough to where it's perfectly fine to do now. There's no major injuries in NASCAR anymore. Let's be honest, a lot of the reason that people watch NASCAR, I mean, I used to like it for the actual racing, but now the actual racing seems kind of dull to me. A lot of the reason that people watch NASCAR is for the wrecks. So they kind of have to showcase the wrecks in NASCAR because that was one of the main selling points of the series as a whole. The GT Sport, Gran Turismo as a whole, it's not supposed to be about the wrecks. It's supposed to be about the realistic racing. There ain't supposed to be wrecks on purpose in realistic racing. There ain't supposed to be dirty driving on purpose in realistic racing. The thing about NASCAR is, while yes, it's universally accepted to be on a downward spiral, at least it seems like they're putting effort to try and change things. Even though a lot of those tries or fails, at least they're kind of putting effort in. PD is just trying to adopt the old NASCAR ways, in which NASCAR is purposely trying to get away from now. PD's allowing for the dirty racing. PD's trying to hype up the fake drama. I mean, for Jiminy Cricket's sakes, it's looking like PD might, depending on the side of you're on, even be starting to rig stuff. Like, let's be honest, folks. Old NASCAR, but not oldest. 2011, I think the year was. It was whatever year Danica Patrick won the pole for the Daytona 500. It's pretty universally accepted, and it's not even looked at as sexist or anything. The analytics, though, it obviously. Danica Patrick was a bust in NASCAR's main series. She raced with some of the best equipment possible, and she had some of the worst results possible on a consistent basis. She never even got overall better statistically. But yet, in one of her very first races, I think it was her first race of her first full-time season in NASCAR's main series, she won the pole for the biggest race, the Daytona 500. It was single-car qualifying back then, and I even remember physically watching the qualifying, and one of the things they went over is NASCAR has this new system in place that randomly assigns a restrictor plate to each driver. Why would the restrictor plates need to be random when they're supposed to be the exact same for everyone? NASCAR just kicked themselves right there. They didn't need to say that whatsoever because they don't need to be random if they're the exact same. So Danica Patrick just randomly got the least restrictive restrictor plate for the Daytona 500 qualifying. Single car qualifying at a full throttle track. If you have the fastest car in the field, it doesn't matter your talent level, you're going to get the pole in single car qualifying at a full throttle track. There you have it, folks. They won the pole. Now, was NASCAR then, or now, or however you want to word it, completely rigged for the drop of the green flag for the Daytona 500? The overall champion, 36 weeks from now, was already decided. I don't think so, but were there aspects of the sport that was definitely rigged then? Yes. I'm not even fully sure what to believe on even early 2000s if NASCAR was rigged. Like the whole Kevin Harvick suddenly being incredible in 2001, or Dale Earnhardt Jr. suddenly having crazy results in the Daytona 500 later on and all that. I'm really not going to get into that because that's incredibly controversial, but I'll just say this. I'm kind of on the fence of what to believe about that, and that's kind of sad to say given that I used to be a huge NASCAR fan. Essentially, what I'm saying is NASCAR used to be rigged, and it seems like they're trying to make it look like they're going away from that now. Is it still rigged? I don't know, but at least they're not making it as obvious as they used to. PD, it's making it look more and more obvious that it might very well be rigged. In hindsight, it may be obvious in 5 years from now that it was rigged. We don't know yet. It's not 5 years from now. But in NASCAR, it became obvious in hindsight. PD is going into the bad world that NASCAR was at one point. And NASCAR is at its worst point now, and just now trying to prove when it might be too late. PD, if anything, is making stuff worse at this point. They're trying to create fake drama in a video game that's supposed to be about realistic racing. They're allowing their drivers to race dirty. Depending on how you look at it, they're being favoritism towards certain drivers. And they might just straight up be blatantly rigging things. What's true and what's not, again, kind of as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's not the future yet. We don't know. But we do know the future of something that happened in the past, how that turned out. The future of NASCAR starting to look worse in the early 2010s, so NASCAR took a different route. Folks have at it, and it got downhill a lot quicker than it was at that point. Now NASCAR might not even be able to recover, even though they're starting to put stuff in place to at least attempt to. PD really doesn't need to be going down this road. So at least the saving grace of NASCAR is, again, they're supposed to be wrecking each other in that sport. I mean, that's been the point since the beginning. It's not supposed to be the point of Gran Turismo. And if they're going to continue to make that the point, it's going to continue to not be worth yeehaw. And it's going to be continuing towards the end. I think we're still at the beginning of the end now. And that's not worth a yeehaw.